So we're down. Oh, sorry.
Acceptable.
It was good.
There you go. Call this meeting to order. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
First order of business, we do have an absent member today. Patrick Kelly cannot be here today. He contacted me a couple days ago to let me know that. I will entertain a motion for an excused absence.
So moved.
Support. Okay. Motion brought by Bendelay and supported by Rocky. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Is
opposed?
Excused for everybody who's absent?
We
only have one
technically
absent.
the only absence.
Yep, just Patrick.
Well, yeah.
So I guess that would be yes. Any public comments for items not on the agenda? Assuming not, since we don't have any public here. Makes that one easy.
They're awfully quiet out there.
Yes.
Crickets.
First time ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want, I was looking for an addition to the agenda under new business.
Yep, we're not there
Oh,
yet.
yeah, okay. Sorry.
Well, we can add that to, that'll be new business towards the end of the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. The consent agenda for this is the regular meeting minutes of September 27, 2023, the promotions committee minutes of September 22, 2023, and the BIP review committee minutes of October 10, 2023. Does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda for discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Moved by Rocky. Support?
Support.
Support by Derschel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Moving on to the agenda. The first item is the September 2023 bills and accounts for the amount of $1,420.61. Much nicer amount than we've had the last few months. I'm glad to see that one. Is there any questions or comments relative to the bills and accounts for September of 2023? Anybody have a motion to approve the September 2023 bills and accounts as presented? Moved by Rocky. Support?
Second.
Support by Bendelay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Christine is not here yet for the Tibbetts update. We'll hold off on that. Next item is the resolution number DDA 23-02, and that's regarding the 2024 DDA meeting dates. That was presented in your packet. It's currently proposed as a continuation of prior years, meaning fourth Wednesday of the month for every month except for November and December, and starting at 8 a.m. Courtney did send me a brief message about entertaining any thoughts on changing the time from 8 a.m. to a different time of day.
And I know the original intention, I think, was the former board members that were retail that had to start before they open their stores and things, and knowing that this board has changed and the makeup of it has changed, most of us being in service industry, and an afternoon, I was suggesting a 4 p.m. meeting would work better, or?
I personally would prefer to keep it at 8 o'clock, just
Okay.
with court schedule and client meetings. I find it easier to get it done out of the way in the mornings. But I mean, we could probably do a 4 o'clock, I guess, but my preference would be to leave it. But certainly if the consensus is moving it, I'm obviously will consent to the majority.
I'm where Michaela's at, which is, 8 early, get it done before, the court stuff and meetings and everything else. If it were later in the day, I would actually want it 5 or after.
Later.
I agree,
Okay.
yeah.
So I am open to I guess probably 5:30 to let the day be done and get here. I am open to 8 or 5:30,
Okay.
depending on what others think.
Problem, if you do 5 or 5:30, you force some staff to stay over for important, it's okay, but we're asking staff to stay past the working hour at 5 or 5:30. That's the only concern there. I think we should, there are times where we need city staff here. Not a huge reason to change it. I don't know about Brad. I mean, I'm sure it works for him to get to work.
But again, the majority is what's important.
I'd rather
Yes.
come in early than stay late.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of hearing a consensus to stay at 8 a.m., particularly with the additional consideration. And thanks, Tom, on that one, relative to staffing.
Well, I will say for staff, I think both of us are salaried positions and we do have a policy of comp time of sorts. So if it does go over, they can make that up elsewhere.
But I think you were saying not just who's here, other input at times from city offices, I think is what they were saying.
Noted. Yes, that's also true.
Okay. With the no change to the current pending resolution, which does start at the 8 a.m. plus the times as indicated, do we have support for that resolution?
I support.
By Kramer, second by Rocky. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All in favor, it is carried. Next is the resolution number DDA 23-03. That's the adoption of the facade restoration initiative guidelines. Audrey, you're going to present that?
Sure, it's just as it is in your packet. It's the full written guidelines that I had prepared for board review. This is comes after a couple draft rounds with the Building Improvement Program Rebate Committee or the Review Committee, who has been working on this summer. I've kind of foreshadowed it a couple times, and then in my director's report last month, I mentioned that we were awarded those FRI funds from the State of Michigan Facade Restoration Initiative. And you all approved unanimously a moratorium on the existing rebate program so that we'd have time to redevelop guidelines relative to the increase in funding that we're going to receive kind of on a one-time basis. So the guidelines are very flexible. We don't have funding minimums. We only kind of note funding maximums that are based on the state's rules around how that money can be spent, and we're keeping it incredibly open-ended. The verbiage obviously notes that we would like really robust transformative projects to be those which the funds are used for, but we don't put dollar amounts. We don't list any number of specific features necessarily that we're requiring. Just kind of show us what you'd like to do with your building that, you know, restores it to historic character or really doubles down on the building condition and historic features and things that are there. So that is how we drafted it. In terms of eligibility, ineligibility, we have a few project cost examples to show that we don't have any specific funding amounts that we're going to award projects. It will be very much based on what projects are submitted and the committee's interpretation of which are most impactful for the downtown and how we are allowed to incentivize those. And then included in that, we have a drafted program timeline that we're hoping to stick to. While we do have 2 years to implement and spend the money from the state of Michigan, it kind of works better if we can try to do it on a 1-year timeline and then adjust as needed if there are project delays next year when we hope to see construction. So as it's currently written, applicants would have about 3 months to prepare applications, which they would be submitted in February. And then the review committee would meet to review those projects at the end of February, make their funding decisions, and then ensure that projects are willing and able to move forward, subject to the funding amount that they may be awarded, and then doing a small grant agreement with them before seeking HDC approval for any relevant projects, and hopefully starting work by April. So that is the Spark Notes version of what we're doing, but most of it is.
Yeah, so the guidelines were included in your packet, and there was 2 meetings, I think, to put this together.
2 in-person meetings and then also the final revision via email.
So any questions, discussion, or topics anybody wants to discuss regarding the guidelines that were in the packet?
We did include some pretty interesting project examples just to be creative and to let people know that we're interested in creative projects. So if maybe you're a building owner who owns multiple buildings and maybe you don't have anything significant, or you've got smaller things that you could do across multiple buildings, that maybe that might be a way you can achieve impact if you don't necessarily have a single comprehensive redevelopment. Building owners can go in on a project together if they have shared designs. There are some buildings downtown where it structurally looks like it's one building, but it has multiple owners, and making sure that, you know, we are accommodating to all those circumstances where people have shared design plans, but different ownership and things of that nature, so.
But we have the back of buildings also, or just the front facade?
I mean, most people, majority of the 800 some parking spots are behind buildings, so rear facades would certainly be included.
Yeah, there's some flexibility built into it, which is, I think good. I think we've learned a little bit from when we first did the facade program and some others that we had them so tightly wound that it made it difficult for people to, submit applications or qualify on projects that otherwise would have been very good projects. So we try to build some flexibility into this, that it allows people to be creative in their presentations of projects and proposals.
That being said, it does really focus on historic details and quality. So we are recommending that people work with historic architects or formal design professionals for this, kind of on their own, to come up with something that works for their building.
Any other thoughts on the facade restoration initiative?
Any questions?
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution number DDA 23-03.
So moved.
Moved by Bendelay. Do we have support? Support by Derschel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
It's so quiet on a $75,000.
All being in favor, the resolution is passed. Well, did that 8 a.m. thing. Not everybody said their coffee yet.
That's just more money Audrey's got.
Okay.
Wow, we're filling up. That's nice to see. The crickets have left, and we have new arrivals. And so, Christine, if now would work for you, that'd be great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So up until this year, when it would come to this Wednesday, a week and a half prior to the auction, everyone would be running out to the shopper's guide to see their list of all the items that are up for the shopper's guide. So we have been working on our preview guide, which is a preview of the auction, which is coming up next week. It will be available in the theater or at our office starting this afternoon, and it will also be available at the Tibbetts website at tibbetts.org. It's been an interesting few months. We are totally revamping the auction. It is unlike any of our previous auctions. We will still have a live auction on stage. The silent auction will be back in the theater as it used to be, but only half of the downstairs art gallery will be silent auction items. The other half of the art gallery will be games. And the theme is, of course, Price is Right. So we have the Price is Right style games to give people options to win. Some of the things that in the past they would have been bidding on are now prizes for the games. So you can play a game and win maybe just a scratch off lottery ticket, or maybe it's a drink ticket or food ticket for some establishment locally, or maybe it's a bigger prize, like a $20 or $30 gift certificate. So there's lots of different options to win. The games include Plinko, Punch a Bunch. Let me refer. The car prize money game, if you're familiar with Price is Right at all, you'll know that one. We have a Beat the Clock. We have a Bob Barker's Bounce. Think beer pong, but no beer.
It's
We
hard
have
for me
a
to
putt-putt
imagine,
game.
actually.
Pardon?
It's a little bit difficult to imagine. But
We have a putt-putt game and we have a Price is Right game. So lots of different things. Oh, and a big wheel, which is not really big, but it's a big wheel. So lots of different things. I hope you'll take time to either hit our website and see. And more importantly, I hope you take time to come out on November 4th for the Tibbetts auction. It is going to be a fun time. We're just trying to change the whole energy of the event, and hopefully it will bring a whole new crowd to us. Addition to that, we have a lot of different events going on. Last time I was here, we talked about Monster Fest. It was a fun success. And yes, we even had a little bit of activity. During our ghost hunt, we have TYA just finished up last week with an amazing show of Rumpelstiltskin, Private Eye, and these kids, I tell you, it really is amazing to watch them. And this particular show, it was fast-paced, lots of jokes flying, and the kids learned to adapt very quickly. As lines got dropped, other people picked up, or they ad-libbed some hilarious moments. And so I'm very, very proud of our kids. I'm very proud of our program and what we do with providing it for the kids. So we're thankful for that support. Also, we have a number of rentals coming up. Quincy Schools will be in. We have a Jersey Nights event, which is a tribute to Frankie Valley, excuse me. Siberian Solstice will be one of our events in December, and it's a tribute to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Think that all that lights and flashing and great big music in a small scale to fit Tibbetts. So very excited what's coming ahead. Community Theater has a show also in December. So lots of things are happening. We are incredibly busy. I'm very excited about the auction, and I hope to see everybody there. And you can pick up your preview guide later today at Tibbetts.
Excellent, thank you.
Are there any questions?
Any questions for Christine? When you say kids, what ages are you talking? You said the,
But Tibbetts Young Audiences,
Yeah.
it's 4th through 8th graders.
oh, okay.
But some of the kids who go through that program and can't be on stage anymore will then help backstage. So our stage managers, a pair of them are, TYA alum who are now in high school. And so we keep them involved, and they get to help on sets or backstage and help the kids at a different level. So they're staying involved with theater.
Neat, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think Rumpelstiltskin is one of the plays that I remember going to for like popcorn.
Okay, next up is the director's report. Audrey?
So I got you a lot of my content from last month. I'm just covering this month, which I've been gone for half of still. Update Community Excellence Award finalists and MML convention last week. So myself, Keith, Shana from the museum, Lisa Miller, and Abby Hoffman traveled to Traverse City to pitch our project. We're one of 4 communities who got an opportunity to present to over 400 attendees at the kickoff of the conference, and then to promote or proselytize our project for the next couple days while voting was ongoing. It was lots of fun. We got tons of positive feedback, and we did not come home with a trophy, but we got to talk to so many people about what we're doing in downtown, the Children's Museum, all the collaborations that it took to do that project. So it was lots of fun, and I think the museum is going to see some visitors in the future from MML convention. So it was a really good time. We got Keith to use a really robust spinning top chair, which he also demonstrated last night at the open house. So we got to be very playful with this, because in addition to a presentation, we also had a booth set up in a specific area with the other competing communities. And we had kind of like a backdrop that looked like the museum, a table with all sorts of like games and goodies, and a giveaway of really awesome museum gifts and things. So I spent every networking breakfast and lunch sitting next to new strangers so I could talk to them about what's going on in their community and also what's going on in ours, and wear a museum shirt every day to plug that project. So we worked hard, we were very proud, and we might, have a project to pitch in the future, maybe another one in a future year. So that was fun. There were also, I got to attend the actual conference itself, and I think most of my takeaways came from general sessions, which really focused on designing spaces, like community spaces, people-scaled places, making sure that the projects that you're doing for your community involve a little bit of fun and whimsical. One of the quotes that popped out to me was, "There's a cost to being boring." So, not making investments in your community, which we don't really have an issue with. We've done a great job of that lately. Just kind of further support for that, you know, when you invest in your physical spaces and your places where people spend time, you get a lot of positivity from that in terms of your citizens wanting to hang out in your downtown or in your parks and frequent businesses and building that community. So sometimes our projects do have higher costs, but there's also a cost to not doing things. And then risk, it can be managed but not eliminated. I think this, along with something called garden hose solutions that we learned about doing things, you know, meeting a need quickly with the best of your ability at the time while you work to have something more permanent in the future, can also do a lot to boost community morale. And not everything has to be really difficult. When they're saying garden hose solutions, I had an example of someone who, it was a really hot day, they didn't have a splash pad. So they set up a hose through a fence and taped the handle down. So it was just shooting out constantly over like a concrete pad with pictures of people playing in it, and kind of just reminding us to be creative, to act when you can act, and, you know, have those kind of quicker fixes while you wait to do something maybe more robust and permanent in the future. So there was lots of great content. And I think Chad Johnson, it was his first time going, council member Chad Johnson, and he has since come up to me with all kinds of fun ideas that he has for the downtown, using our branding and using our logo, because he was really motivated by some of these, like, you know, we can get some of our icons maybe painted on the streets as a way to slow people down and reinforce branding and color. And so we'll see what he comes up with, but I'm really excited that it was good for, I'm gonna say we had 3 council members attend, at least three, Hazel Baker and Johnson and Canuck, plus obviously some city staff and Keith. So we got to have a lot of fun. Definitely a different conference for me.
Who won the award?
Bridgman. Bridgman is a community, their population, I think is around, is it 12 or 1300?
Well,
Oh, 23. Still, yes. So double what I said, but still quite small. And their project was also a placemaking project. They had overtime, like during COVID, they'd got a small grant to renovate a part of a parking lot with some seating for people and like some planters. And then eventually they applied for a larger grant to really build out that space more permanently with overhead kind of area for, I think, where they can have shade and lighting and better landscaping, better seating, and an art project with some students in the area to decorate it and design it. So it was a good project. A lot of the projects were really nice. I'd like to think we came in second, but we don't know that for sure. But I think Keith was happy, and I was also happy to see it go to another community who's quite small, who also had to make a big lift and had to do their own fundraising for that project as well. So I think maybe all the finalist communities will take turns visiting each other after this to see all of their work in action. Oh, that formatting got a little funky, but last night we had the donor reception for the Children's Museum. Thank you to everyone who pitched in and hauled some mail on that and did some things for us and showed up, and thanked all of the donors. So I want to say we had around 40 plus people out of our 70 some donors attend, which we thought was a great turnout. It was a really beautiful day. We had the doors open with a nice breeze coming in. We gave handshakes and hugs to anyone who wanted them on their way in. And lots of people hadn't seen the museum yet. You know, a lot of our supporters are not necessarily people with kids or grandkids, even though a lot of them also are. Shauna spoke a little bit to that herself in her remarks during the evening, as someone whose children are grown but is incredibly passionate and motivated by providing this to people in our community. So it had a lot of warm fuzzies. It was really fun and great to welcome people. So Dell and Dr. Rubley were able to join us, as well as Southern Michigan Bacon Trust, several representatives, lots of people from the museum, and of course our own team. So questions about the donor reception? Oh, okay, thanks for coming. Just a quick update. I've shown, I think the next 3 slides are just information I haven't gotten to update you or remind you about in a while. So Match on Main is the most important one. I know I noted that this year there would only be 1 funding round for Match on Main instead of 2 funding rounds. And now we know for sure that opens in January. So in January, we'll be able to allow our businesses to apply for that at the local level, and then we choose 1 project to forward on to the state for their consideration. And that's the one that can provide up to $25,000 to businesses for all kinds of projects. We've gotten architectural renderings for El Taco Loco. We have Schemmels is almost reimbursed for their portion of what they're doing for some of their tech improvements in their showroom and some other things. So hopefully, we'll be successful again and can find a nice project to support there. And then vibrancy grant, that's actually for Main Street organizations. I don't know if we have a project that will be ready this time, but we might. So just as a foreshadow for things that we can apply to in the future, for up to $20,000 for any projects that we might have, whether that's supporting a pop-up shop or a robust marketing campaign for the downtown or physical improvements. If there's some signage or art or other things that we'd like to do, there is something that we can apply to do that. MMS accreditation, we're kind of in the same spot that we were last time, but this is just kind of a heads up to the board leadership in particular that we will have a virtual meeting in November as the next step for our accreditation before we apply for a service from Main Street in 2024. So this year we got a branding service. Next year, or we'll apply for a service next year that's based on kind of where we can benefit from the most improvement relative to the annual accreditation assessment we filled out. Similarly, with impact report, we're kind of in the waiting period for this as well. We should have it by the end of the year, which is what we did last year. I think we got it in November or December. And then in the beginning of the year, I get to have yet another reason to visit local service clubs and to tell them about all the work that we did in the calendar year and downtown investment, volunteerism, big projects and things like that we start tracking now very strategically, which I think a couple months ago is when I showed you the breakdown of all the stats and the metrics that I submit each month. And that's what that annual report is based on, or impact report is based on. Also attended at the end of my personal time vacation, a director's retreat through Main Street. And this is really based on individual development, not necessarily organizational development. We did an updated DISC assessment to tell us all about ourselves and our personalities and where we excel and where it's, we can fall victim to our own habits. Surprise to me, but organization is one area of improvement that I could work on, digital and physical. So certainly need to be prioritizing that this year. We were also paired up with accountability partners. So we did make a list of personal goals and things to work on over the next year. And then we will, I'll be meeting with my accountability partner every other month or every 3 months or so to check in and kind of have someone to talk through some of those things with, share stories, struggles, recommendations, and all of that fun. So that's what I did earlier this year. And then miscellaneous, these are the last items that I've got. So when we talk about downtown redevelopment projects and the larger grants that are available to them, used to be called Community Assistance Team, CAT Team. Now it's called Community Development Managers. Michelle Audat-Bauman has been our champion over the past several years, and she has been the shepherd for a lot of the projects that we have, including Gillespie, which is now Southern Flats, including the project at 8 South Monroe, and some of those that we have in the pipeline. She's taken a different position in doing housing in the state, and so our replacement for that was hired this fall. She's currently in training, and so we'll be able to meet with her hoping the beginning of the year and start to orient her to the projects that we might have for those funds as well. And applicants for the CLG grant cycle, we achieved CLG status just a couple months ago, and we already have some downtown organizations who are looking to apply for grants that are tied to that CLG status. So as a reminder, we can also apply as an organization if we choose to. We can do it for planning for architectural improvements. You can also do it for rehabilitation projects themselves. And also for education projects. So whether it's, we have some year, which I hope we don't, but if we did have some really robust renovating that we needed to do on a building relative to its historic character and its age, we could apply for assistance with that. Or we could host some sort of technical workshop or education workshop for downtown business and building owners, and we could apply for funding through that as well. And then my last note is you guys did approve Apple Fest rebates for 2023 at your last meeting, and I'll be processing those this coming month. So I haven't gotten to that, but I'm going to. And I think one of my last notes is not that anyone asked about my vehicle, but I did get my windshield replaced as promised in celebration of Denning Glass's 20th anniversary. And not only did I replace it once, I replaced that sucker twice in the same week, because as soon as after I replaced it once, I smacked with a rock. Like 3 days later, that cracked all up and across. So I've gotten very familiar with their excellent customer service and wrote them a Google review and thanks for their help with me more frequently than I'd like, but that's how it goes sometimes. Happy to give them my business. And then last but not least, just a couple fun reminders of what's coming up. Halloween parade this weekend, if you can make it. I think I'm going to try to hit up the Haunted Forest and then perhaps swing into Two Bandits or somewhere else for a social district beverage and post up for the parade if timing works out. Tibbetts annual auction, which Chris mentioned. I know I sent out an email to HLB to see if they wanted tickets to that. I think tickets to the auction are $10, which gets you in, all the appetizers, and then your choice to either you can play a game or get a beverage at Ghost Light Bar. So if you need tickets, let us know. I might have included you on that email. I do not recall. So. And then lastly, our promotions committee, which Courtney could fill us in if she'd like more, but I know I've sent this out to everyone already, and we did a special email blast to the downtown. And everyone who I could find on Facebook, I sent them invites as well to the Grow with Google training that the promotions committee is scheduling for November 7th. It's going to be a 3.5-hour workshop at Coldwater Township building. Yes, the building, wasn't sure what that's titled. So we've gotten a lot of requests lately, and businesses are always really interested in how they can improve their marketing and better understand all the forces at play that they don't see, especially in the digital realm. And this will be how they can figure out how to better understand that and improve their online presence and their ability for people to find them. So for example, I know the Children's Museum is registered because even though they are a children's museum, they also offer retail, and for them figuring out how to use Google so that way they're popping up on search engines when people type in like kids gifts or children's gifts, birthday gifts, things like that. They want to show up for that too. And this is the kind of training that will cover that among many other things.
As of this morning, there are 37 registrations.
Oh, nice.
We're taking a total of 50 tops. So
Okay.
we're expecting to max out at that. Again, just a reminder, this is a free training through Main Street that is afforded to us. So it's a grant program. It's done at the end of December. So that's why promotions committee had to kind of sneak it in here quick, but it's seeming to go well. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm also registered, so I'll be there. That's the end of my formal, but if you've got questions, as always, share them.
Any questions for Audrey? Well, excellent, thank you. Any old business? New business, I know Brad has some new business relative to 7173 West Chicago.
Yeah, I just thought it would be potentially appropriate this morning to understand this project a little better. I know Audrey and Mayor have spoke, and I learned on the radio this morning that there's potentially going to be a signing of an agreement or a purchase, I'm not sure, tomorrow. I didn't, my thoughts are, and I know some early on conversation that, that those buildings are in our neighborhood, and that block the DDA has been very active with, but I'm not overly knowledgeable what's taking place at this point. Wonder if the board could be brought up to speed on it.
Yes, I can speak to that. So the Monday night city council meeting, the city council had set the date for this coming tomorrow night, 5 o'clock here in this, that the city council will consider taking final action on the sale of that building. The city received an offer, actually listed the building, received 4 offers, and the city council identified one that's been on the table now for 30 days. And the proposed purchasers have identified the use for their proposed use for the building would be some type of Mediterranean deli grocery restaurant concept. So that's the extent of the knowledge I know of what that would be, with eventually apartments, I believe, on the second floor. So that's kind of the status of where the council is on the sale of that building. So it was, the offer was placed on the table, required by charter for 30 days. They could take or consider any other offers, and that 30 days ends today, I believe, or ended yesterday or today. And so because we have a 3-week window between our council meetings, the way the calendar worked out this month, they moved up or scheduled a special meeting to consider the for finalizing the sale of that tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Keith, how much detail did they give regarding the concept? And is there anything in the proposed purchase agreement that puts any measurements or requirements for that?
So that's the level of detail.
Okay.
To the extent that as far as the proposed use, the council had listed the property with a local realtor. And for this specific building, they didn't place any further development agreement restrictions or any specific requirements. They were looking to just sell the building.
Because, I mean, I looked them up online, so they do have existing
Yep.
separate looks like separate, like you said, deli restaurant type and a grocery store in Fort Wayne. They're like in a
Correct, yeah.
strip mall right next to each
Yeah.
other.
Yep.
And is that kind of the general concept? Well, those are two separate,
Right. They're
right next
side.
to each other, but they look separate.
Yes, and the one in Fort Wayne is they're side by side, but
Correct.
they're two different types of businesses. But yes, that's the extent of the knowledge that we have of that.
I know we've talked the importance of the location of those buildings for, a healthy district. Has there been any visits to the businesses? It sounds like we're just selling, the city is just selling the building.
To your first question, no, I personally haven't visited their businesses in Fort Wayne or otherwise. And yes, it is very much just the council had decided to put the building up for sale, list it, take offers, and then consider the proposed use without any restrictions as to or clawbacks or anything to that effect, and what the price was going to be, right? So the value that they're getting for the building.
Isn't with the Main Street agenda, isn't there protocols or things that are tried to look at for buildings use and things in the district?
From the perspective of a municipality who has property in the downtown, I think Main Street would recommend that you use your transformation strategy and some of your overarching goals and those measurable objectives to base that decision-making on. We did a lot of community polling, we did stakeholder meetings, market demographics, all kinds of things as part of that transformation strategy. I will say Middle Eastern type food or restaurant was, I think, within the top 3 voted on the Pulse poll that we did conduct last year in terms of getting more detail on what people do want to see downtown. So from the perspective of the use, I think it does align with our transformation strategy. I think some of your questions are around to what extent they're being held accountable to that and what supports we have in place to help make that happen.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree that the proposed use, I think, does fit well with the surveys we did, and I think fits well with the community in terms of how I understand the project, in terms of what they would put in.
I personally would be very happy to not have to drive to Kalamazoo or Fort Wayne to get some good Mediterranean food.
We hear a lot about that, and I'll make a plug too. We do have interest. The city has reacquired because we had a sales agreement for the sale of 10 South Monroe, the old Lefties building, and now we have that back, and we already have interest in that, which will be coming forward to council as well. But there'll be anyone interested in that building. Audrey and I can facilitate tours and we're looking at, to that extent, being where that is as well as, making sure that whatever's proposed kind of fits in with the fabric of downtown.
I think another angle of things would be RRC, redevelopment ready communities, which we've been chipping away at, would probably prefer that, we're providing a lot of information to developers or to interested purchasers on the known cost, the known condition, the known architectural and those kinds of things, and doing some decent vetting to make sure that they can complete a project and that we're also being clear with people on what it is that we're asking for. So
Brad makes a good point. Maybe we should have an item on the agenda every meeting of, buildings updates.
No.
I mean, he's right, the thing has moved fast and communication could have been better, interaction could have been better. I mean, Audrey's kind of the go-between, but there's no reason that every month we couldn't just have an update. We got the Putnam Funeral Home building, which is a project involved in the downtown. We got obviously the Children's Museum above, we've got Lefties now that's dealing with, and we could do a better job of communicating and informing. And I think if there was an item on the agenda, maybe we'd have that discussion. Lefties is important now too. I mean, but we don't have the choices. We had 3 or 4 offers on 71, 73, and while there certainly should have been interaction with his board, or could have been, there was a decision of the Mediterranean versus a barber shop versus a venue. So thinking we're following along with the Main Street type of objectives and goals, but that doesn't dictate that we shouldn't communicate better. So acknowledged. And the same thing going on with Lefties right now. Things are moving fast. And we hope we're following what we would all be in agreement of the type of project there, but it's not as easy as clicking our heels together and wishing. Businesses still have to be successful and make it. So, but they're trying, but communication should be better.
Well, I see the DDA's it's the DDA's responsibility to do the best it can for its territory, its backyard. And if we aren't part of the ongoing conversation, how can we do our job effectively and efficiently?
And I think it's a two-way street as well. So, I mean, I've been following what's happening there in the news.
And that's true.
But I easily could have picked up the phone and called somebody. I easily could have shown up at the city council meeting as well. So, I mean, it's a two-way street.
I agree. And that's where I think what Mayor's suggesting would be very helpful. What do we do to help us do our due diligence? It's just like, that building had an interested party that seemed to be something that we were backing. And when the numbers were crunched and things got close to the end, it appears that they didn't see things working in a healthy fashion financially. So now we have somebody that's interested in building, that's wonderful. But what can be done there, and what part of this do we need to be to potentially help it be successful in what we'd like to have? Like I said, I think it'd be wonderful to have Mediterranean flair, availability, food and things. But, upper level living has been very important to us. It doesn't sound like there's been any real discussion with this potential owner on the cost that has been looked at, and we have numbers to talk about. And so is it going to get where we're trying to get to? It seems like we should be a little more proactive in helping people with information we have to help them make their best decision. Now, my guess is the upper level living maybe isn't as important to them. They're focused on their main floor, which most very possibly can be great. But again, we've been focusing on housing in our district, and obviously there hasn't been a lot of talk about that. I'm sure it said it'd be nice to have. What's it cost? So anyways, is it a done deal? I guess that's, is it going to be signed? Or is that what
Well, that's what tomorrow's meeting is. The final action would be to either approve or not approve the sales agreement with this group. So that's what the council will be deciding tomorrow after having sat on the table for 30 days.
would you recommend the DDA have representation at that meeting for any reason, Keith?
Sure, they're welcome to, or to ask questions or to hear what their proposal is, but I believe they'll be present, or the realtor will be present.
There is no development agreement with that.
Right,
So there's,
right. It's
So-
just selling the building.
But just
This
so Brad, the board knows, we did some vetting with their local people that graduated from Coldwater High School. So their local people have an operation in Fort Wayne, and I think Indianapolis. They have 2 locations. I have personally checked them out through some connections within the community that knows them and spoke well. But council, and I would hope the DDA would agree that the decision was made that if we're going to get above market value or above, that we would hope they would do what they said, as opposed to Lefties, for example, if we would sell for less than we think it's worth, then we would try to put some requirements
teeth
on
in
it.
it.
Now, and Mike may tell you, or either of you, that that's a little more challenging. You can do all these grandiose conditions, but when they get a bank loan and you're second behind a $300,000 bank loan, development agreements are hard to enforce, is what we've
Well,
learned.
look at lefties. I mean,
Exactly.
we're there.
So that's kind of the thought process. If you're getting more than at what it's worth, and you just hope they do what they say they're doing, because what's the choice? If you get less, then you do complicated development agreements that may not work out anyway. So it's
Well, it's good to hear it's somebody local.
it wasn't just
That's
a
history.
haphazard, yeah, accept the first offer that came. I mean, but that needed to be communicated better.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Anything further on that issue? Any other new business?
I just wanted to bring up promotions committee. We are going to work, I think, quick for some type of small business Saturday event in downtown. And so I'm not sure how big it will be this year, but just wanted to kind of give everybody the heads up since we'll be meeting, I think, next week to kind of go over some details and see if we can pull something together quickly for downtown businesses for that. And then I also just wanted to bring up, is there, Audrey, I don't know if we have Main Street cards or something, but a card to go to Cooley's. Fred Cooley passed away, and good member of our downtown, and just wanted to make sure that that's,
I saw that we don't have like branded cards yet, but
Okay.
we can get it.
okay, just a sympathy, okay,
I also saw that yesterday.
yeah.
Anything else, new business wise? Now that the public has arrived, do we have any public comment? Yes, Christine.
I forgot to mention in my report, Cultural Jubilee is also moving forward. We have a great committee yesterday. And at this point, we are seeking funding for the Cultural Jubilee event. The whole idea is to gather the community and really share the cultures that are in our community. Issue really that's coming along, but we are seeking funding for that, and we have levels, $500. That's one thing. The other thing is
Shocking.
I'm also helping with cultivating community because obviously it's taking place downtown, and big part of our transformation strategy is about encouraging multicultural businesses, experience-based businesses, and also bringing the community into downtown more. So I have a meeting. I'm getting into the high school in a couple, maybe next month. There's a cultural appreciation club that I'm hoping to connect with for possibly one of the feature events of that event in May. So, little things going. I can give you more details when I know more.
That culture club does a lot at the community center.
Yeah?
They've been very involved, yeah.
Well, the concept I have, which I will see if they like it or if they want to do something different, but something that's entertaining but also educational would be sort of like a cultural fashion show for like key points of, we've got all different cultures of different coming of age celebrations, what type of, wedding garments they wear, all these different things that mark points in their life. And I think being able to showcase that and then also have like some narration and some emceeing, I think could be fun. That was what we'll see.
Also,
They can tell me that's an old
kudos
lady.
to Courtney for the great job she does on Hopkins Monroe. It's
Yes.
been a huge, huge success, and she deserves a lot of credit, so thank you.
Yeah, she presented to city council on Monday, so I didn't ask her to represent to you guys, but if you can view that on YouTube, they're all recorded and all that content will also be online if you want all the nitty gritty details.
And the dates are out, so put them on your calendar.
The dates.
June 20th, first
It's on my calendar. They're all ready.
It'll be here fast.
And the collaboration with Quincy was
Yeah,
great to
it worked out.
publicize and let everybody
Yeah.
know, not trying to compete with anybody.
I think Two Bandits are doing more next year, aren't they, Keith? Isn't Two Bandits got more scheduled than next year?
Yes, in talking with Mark, they definitely are going to have their Wednesday once a month,
Yeah.
starting, I believe, in May, which they started this past summer. And then they're also going to do a couple Friday night events. So they're going to ramp up the number in which that they're just sponsoring. And then because I talked to them, they plug their 2-year anniversary, which is Saturday, November 11th. They're doing a big event downtown in the alley behind the building and in the restaurant itself on Saturday, November 11th.
A lot of fun stuff happening around town. Okay, anything else? Okay. Not hearing any, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.